everyone, and welcome back to the Rave Social Podcast. I'm your host, Jaiden, and today we have a special guest, Annie. Annie is a business coach who's incredible. We've worked together for a couple months now, honestly, I think 5 or 6 months now. It's been really fun just getting to know Annie and what she does and the people that she serves. And she's really, really good at what she does. She has a wonderful personal brand. She's grown her business all while working full time. And she's a mom. I literally don't know how she does all of this, but hopefully she'll tell us today how she does it all. So welcome to the podcast, Annie. And why don't you tell us just a little bit about what you do, who you serve, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun.
Yeah.
So yes, my name is Annie. I'm based in the Midwest. I started my business about 1.5 years ago, and truly who I serve is the ambitious, high-level, empowered entrepreneur that is not just looking to make a quick buck, that is really looking to make an impact on the world with her gifts. And so much of what I'm doing when I'm working with women is, yes, scaling their business and their income is a byproduct of the work that we do, but so much more than that, it's aligning what their true magic is, their zone of genius, with a scalable business and offer suite so that it starts to feel, when you start doing something, you're like, this doesn't even feel like work anymore. That is my ultimate goal. It's like creating that overall impact. So, I have done this all while I started my business. Actually, I'm a certified run coach on the side too. So it's like woman of many. And I initially started my business to help women train for half marathons and whatnot while being a mom and a working mom. And I quickly realized I didn't enjoy trying to take pictures of me while I was running. It was really stripping the joy away from something I love so much. And so I shifted. I have my MBA in marketing, and this is so much what I've done in the corporate world. And I shifted my business model to this, and it just blossomed really, really quickly. And I found my stride. And it's because I'll talk more about this today, but because I built an aligned business.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's true. You do work with, I love that you work with women, and I love that you work with working moms too. And you just have such a unique, I feel like, perspective and just a unique way of doing things because you have done it in the corporate world and you still do. And then also you are a mom. You're walking the walk every single day. And so people are able to look at you as an example, and you really are just embodying what you teach, which I think is huge.
Absolutely. I feel like, to be completely transparent, the first 6 months, I scaled to 6 figures in 10 months while working a 9 to 5, but
crazy.
It is crazy in hindsight. And I normalized it too. That's something I work with women to do. It's stop normalizing the moves that you're making. You are not normal. You're in the 1% and just seeing their magic. But I digress. But really, it's I didn't do that aligned, honestly. The first probably 6 months of my business, I was on the hamster wheel hustling. I got sick so many times. I felt like I was spending every free moment answering DMs, and I had to do it the wrong way to realize what the right way was. And so that is one of the reasons women come to me. It's I did burn out, and then I had to evolve and kind of strip away all the things that couldn't come with me and build an aligned business. And so now, I just shared a riff in one of my Telegram communities for my signature offer, Magnetic Brand, about how actually my 20K and 30K months felt so much more spacious and fun and easy than some of my 5K and 10K months, because I was on the hamster wheel of more is more.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that just happens. Unfortunately, I think that you are helping women, fix this before they get there, before they get to that point. But I do feel like it's almost like a rite of passage. It just kind of happens to everyone. Everyone I've ever talked to is yep, I totally burned out and had to I had to redo it. I swear it's happened to everyone at some point. And it's I think part of it is learning your edges. You learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And there's just these phases that you have to go through almost. But it's so true when you do figure out like how to be aligned and how to come out on the other side of that, it's wonderful. Like you're saying, it feels like so much easier to make the money. It feels easier to do the work, all of those things.
Yes, I I feel like it definitely is a rite of passage. It's one of those things that I hope that women don't have to go through that as they're building their career, but it's probably in a lot of ways inevitable because it's when you have this big vision on your heart of like, I'm building something bigger than myself that I can hardly even just imagine what it's going to be. It's really hard not to put all of your time and energy into that. But when you put all of your time and energy into that and it's aligned, it's like, that's the difference in burnout. And so I think what happens is that people are looking around, they don't have their blinders on. And so they're looking at what's she doing? What's she doing over there? Okay, maybe I'm going to try that. And so you're trying to do all these different things that aren't aligned because you think it's the roadmap like to success. And then you realize, okay,
Yes.
the roadmap is actually just coming home to myself and being aligned with my.
Yeah, it's like the roadmap is actually just whatever you want it to be.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, we were talking about that. I recorded a podcast with Victoria last week that you guys will hear soon. And we talked about something very similar, just saying like, it's so noisy. Everyone's telling you what to do. And a lot of times they're just telling you what they did because they got the success. And so then they're like, I can show you how I did this, which is awesome and like probably works for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. And I think we forget how unique everyone's situation is, which then their business is so unique. Their income needs are different depending on maybe where they live, how much debt they have, like their lifestyle goals, you know, things are just so different. And even the amount of time people have to spend in or on their business is so wildly different that it's really hard to just follow someone else's roadmap and then have it feel good for you.
I like wholeheartedly everything there. It's just, I'm in so much agreement with that. So I feel like that's why I try not to use the words blueprint or roadmap. It almost gives me the ick a little bit. And it's, yes, there can be this loose structure, but when I work one-on-one with people, it's like, what are your vision? What does your schedule look like? It has to work for your phase of life and not mostly I work with women that are like, yeah, I'm scaling to multi six figures and I want to build a $1 million brand. And that's who I attract. But not everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Not everyone has the same vision. And so it's getting really clear and realizing it isn't cookie cutter. And that's so much of the work that I do is that like, I differentiate myself because I'm not going to give you a blueprint. Yes, of course, every coach is informed. Every entrepreneur is informed by what they've been through. And that's how they learn. But it's also looking at the individual you're working with and not trying to like square peg round hole.
Literally, like just follow it. Do exactly what I said. Do exactly what I did. Even though you have 4 kids and I have none and I live in Salt Lake and you live in New York City. Like it's just so different. You know, you can't just follow other people's roadmaps. I love that that's what you're up to. And I know one thing we want to kind of get into today is talking about like going into the new year. I'm not sure if this podcast will come out the end of this year or the beginning of next year, but regardless, here we are. It's the close of the year. And I'm wondering what you think people should kind of be focusing on or leaning towards going into the new year.
Sure. So I think one of the main things, and this is how I really approach, I say I don't talk about blueprints and whatnot, but typically the foundation for the work that I do and the first module inside my signature program, Magnetic Brand Academy, is all about like alignment. No surprise there. And so when we have internal alignment with what we're doing, like energetics and brand alignment, things can happen so quickly. It can create a domino effect. So I'm a big example person. So I had an interior designer I was working with, and she was brilliant. The reason we actually initially connected wasn't to work together. It was like, oh my gosh, I love your stuff. And she was telling me a story. She has a brand of over, 200,000 followers. And she was sharing, so for so long, I was trying to do like all of these bright colors. And then I like shifted my brand to neutrals because that's what was trending in interior design. But she was like, that's just not my style. And she's like, finally, like, F it. Like, I'm just going to do it my way. And she started posting like vintage mixed with like, estate sale finds mixed with like some
I'm
modern stuff
obsessed.
like that she'd find budget friendly stuff she'd find at Target and Wayfair. And her account took off. And it was because no one was doing that. It was like this really beautiful colors, but they were like a lot of muted colors. And she went from like a 200,000, follower account, not making that much money, to, 5 figures stacked in MRR with affiliate links and from,
Wow.
private brand clients. And it was such a good example of like, when you're in alignment, she's like, I just started posting what inspired me and what I liked. And it just was so easy. And so if you don't have alignment going into the whole structure for your business, you're building on a faulty foundation. And so alignment with what you do is so freaking important. And so taking that alignment into creating whatever your niche or industry you're in, like making sure that your offers are aligned with what your zone of genius is and you're energetically. So it's like, if you're able to sell from that frequency, it's going to be fun selling it. Like the offers that I've sold that sold out and just were so easy, they usually came to me while I was on a run and I was like, no, I have to get this out. Like I'm literally being selfish if I don't get this to my clients. And when I dropped those, it was like we sold from that frequency versus like, this is what I should do.
Oh my gosh, it's so huge. I think a lot of people listening to this are social media managers, but we also have coaches, photographers, creatives, things like that. And I think with something like an example that I have with social media managers is that like social media managers think that they have to offer full service management. They have to be posting for people. They have to be like a video editor, a graphic designer. Like they're like, I have to do this. That's what a social media manager does. And I'm like, no, you do not. And then my question is always, does that even work for people? Mm-hmm. Is it working? Is that your offer currently? And is it working for people? And they're always like, it's not really working. I mean, like, yeah, their account is getting some engagement, a little bit of growth, but it's not anything to like write home about. And I'm like, yeah, because you've disconnected them from their own brand, right? But you thought you had to do it like that. And you just don't. And it's true for, I just think, any niche. Like, I think we follow people's blueprints, or you see someone like, that you look up to and you want to just like have their exact business, but it doesn't work for you. Mm-hmm. And then you're just like frustrated and you hate it.
I feel like that's another rite of passage way to learn. It's like I remember early when I was evolving my business to a more sustainable model, I created a course teaching women how to scale their business. And it was like, I was embodied in it. I had done the things, but I did it because I felt like I had to, of like, this is what I need to do to evolve and grow. I need to build a course. And it was like, I dropped it and I had a 4-figure launch, but it was like, I thought this was going to be this like grand, that's a story for another time, is like expectations and alignment with reality and whatnot. But it was a very much should create this offer, and we don't do shoulds anymore. And so like, you had to have a flopped launch to understand how to help clients navigate if they have a flopped launch. But at the same time, it's like, it's so clear now. I was not aligned. I wasn't excited about it. I was proud of the work. Like I poured in so much heart and love into that.
Yeah.
But it was not like what I want to be known for. And it was like this journey that you have to go on to get there. And so to your point, it's like, cookie cutter scalable offer suites just don't work. And so that's why creating and innovating on what you see out there is what works.
And do you feel like, I think that's huge for next year, for sure. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there's any part of that people are nervous about? Like, have you been helping coach people kind of into that? And they're like, well, I don't know because of XYZ. Like, what are those hesitations people have?
Sure. I mean, I think people have hesitations, one, on creating something that looks like everyone else's. And so it's this juxtaposition, right? Of, okay, well, everyone else has a signature program that looks like this. So shouldn't mine look like this? And it's like, well, let's actually think of who is your dream client? Who's your target audience? What is their greatest desires that they're actually looking for? And do you really need a 12-week program like all these others? Or do you really need XYZ like all these others? Is that what's going to get them from point A to point B in the shortest amount of time? Because if you actually ask yourself those questions, your offers probably won't look like everyone else's. And so I think, to answer your question, like, are people nervous about that? I think people are just nervous about change in general. But I think that so yes, very much so. But I think people aren't so nervous about that. I think they're nervous that what they're building right now isn't going to work for the future, and just like future proofing themselves. And it's like, that's the whole point of this. It's like, you can't necessarily, the only way to future proof is to build in alignment with those desires, like irregardless of what that looks like.
Do you feel like that means being comfortable, like pivoting, like almost even being comfortable, like switching through different niches and things like that? Because I feel like it holds, personally, I feel like it holds me back, because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want to totally teach people about like this thing, but I don't know if that even like totally aligns with my business. So I am nervous to launch it.
I think that is the strength of having that is the benefit of having a strong personal brand, is being able to evolve. Because when people are there for your core values and you're really clear on your core values, one, it's okay that those core values evolve and change over time. In fact, that's normal. But it's, if people are there for you, you're going to evolve naturally and they're going to come with you. So I always tell clients that come to me, if they're changing niches and it's like they've built a really strong personal brand, it's like, keep your account, like evolve and do what lights you up there. But there's a difference in intentional evolving and like jumping all over the place, right? It's like, you can make things work and you can have a multifaceted business and just a multi-passionate person work like very well for you. I've worked with a transformation coach. She's in one of my masterminds right now. She's brilliant. She is someone that speaks publicly on stages. She's an author, a published author, and she's like a transformation coach in this year-long program. And it's like, she's had all these ahas of like, oh, this can actually all work together. But in her mind, they were like so different. She's like, how do I mesh these? And it's like, well, there's a core thing here, and that's you and your brand and what you stand for.
Yeah. Do you feel, I'm with you on personal brands, and I could literally yap for like a decade on personal brands. This is going to be a tangent, but since it's relevant, we're going to go off on it. But I was talking to my fiance about this during the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight this weekend. And I was saying Jake Paul's hateable. People don't like him, whatever. And I was like kind of playing the devil's advocate. I was like, I mean, Jake Paul is an insane example of what a personal brand can do for you. If you have a strong personal brand, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, he's rich, whatever. That also has to do with his personal brand. But like, I just feel like we're seeing more and more now people who are becoming pop stars, people who are becoming celebrities, people who are becoming business owners, entrepreneurs, like the owner of Base. She was in, oh my God, Pretty Little Liars, and now she's an entrepreneur. And like, we're seeing these things shift and evolve because we're watching people's personal brands be the centerpiece of their life. And then they can do really like whatever they want because of that. And it's just crazy how powerful it is.
It's so powerful. It opens doors that you didn't even know were going to be there. And so I think that is the crux of looking around and trying to do what everyone else is doing and blending in, which, I made the mistake of trying to do it at the beginning. And I was like, this is so boring. I don't know. I feel lost. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, well, you had to find your way, and your way was just coming home to you, your values, your voice, your authority, your conviction, your polarizing views, because people's attention spans are so short. People don't want to get, online, go on social media. Most people are there to escape. Right? Most people actually aren't entrepreneurs. So when they're scrolling, it's like they want to feel something. And if they don't feel something, if they're not moved, if it's not like a polarizing opinion, or obviously if it's a potential client, if it's not something that isn't outside of the box, like it's not going to even stop their scroll or get their attention. And so we have to be more honest than ever. And I think that that's one of the things personal brands are moving for. It's like, there's not so curated and like perfect looking, like girl next door. It's like, who are you at your core and what do you stand for? And when you're able to do that, you can literally take anyone with you, whether it's views that people don't agree with or not.
Yeah. Ooh, like how do you ever get people like do you ever get negativity or like hate or people disagreeing with you?
So I've only had a couple of people disagree with me, and I honestly celebrated that so big. I remember, how long ago was this? Probably about a year into my business. And I remember I was on Threads and I said something along the lines of, I don't know why I haven't, gotten any hate or trolls. And it was like, you probably aren't speaking your truth yet. And that was a really big eye opener for me. It was like, shit, Annie, like get it together and just put it all out there. So it was almost like a challenge of just like, how can I take myself out to the edge? Like, how can I be more polarizing? Not for the sake of being polarizing, but it's like, if you're not speaking your real truth and opinion and what you stand for, you're probably not rubbing people the wrong way. And it's like, you're not doing a good enough job at that. And it was such a big eye opener. And so I started doing that. So I've gotten some trolls and they've been for funny enough, the things that I didn't expect them to be for.
Yeah. You're like, okay, what? I have had definitely people comment on posts of mine before where I'm like, okay, you're so getting blocked because I don't need your energy in this area. But I do feel like sometimes I am nervous about sharing my polarizing views and opinions because I think that it will, make people not like me. Or like one time I did share an opinion about Jenna Kutcher and there was an army of people that were like, you don't celebrate women. Like you're not a girl's girl. You're a hater. And I'm like, I am hating on what she's doing with this specific offer. Like it's not about her personally, but that like scared me because I was like, okay, well, I don't want people to think I'm like mean or something, but that is how I felt.
I'm your biggest cheerleader for sharing how you felt, but I think that people are going to project on you with their own insecurities and wounds and whatever they want to see. And so it's almost like if you're not actually ruffling feathers or have trolls, you're probably not sharing any real opinions. And even if they are about Jenna Kutcher, but I feel like that is another rite of passage. It's like sharing your real opinion and getting haters. And I'm in a mastermind right now that every time someone gets like a hater, they come to the group and they're like, guys, I want to celebrate today. Like I said something that ruffled someone's feathers. And so I'm doing it right. I'm paving the way to success here with one hater at a time.
I love that. Do you feel like when we're kind of talking about personal brands, so it's making me think like, do you see anything shifting when it comes to personal brands in the next year? Like, for example, I feel like personal brands kind of started in like the blogger era of things. Then it kind of shifted to like TikTok or like social media personalities that maybe we call influencers now. What do you feel like? Do you think there's going to be any changes or is it just kind of staying steady?
I think it's a lot of what we've already talked about, which is it's going to get a little bit more, and I feel like the word authentic is thrown around so much, but just more authenticity, more like raw, more real, not so curated, what I mentioned before, more community-based versus like, let's just get more followers because then that's more people that I can sell to. It's like actually nurturing and building communities and strengthening your personal brand following and not just for the sake of being like, now I have a big community of raving fans. It's like, no, now I have a community that I actually care about. And it's almost this two-way relationship versus a like one-sided, like worshiping the influencer, if you will.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like maybe personal brands like are more like they're smaller, I want to say, but like maybe more tight knit is like the right word, not necessarily like small. But I love that. I love a community.
Yeah, I actually created a free community and I was like, how can I pour back into my community? I was like, one of my zones of genius is responding. I'm a generator in human design.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Like podcasts work so well for me because it's just like the most fun conversation. And so, that was like, oh my gosh, how can I design an offer that is one, giving back, but two, is nurturing my audience, and it's free. And so I created this community in Telegram where I do a weekly riff, like a weekly masterclass. And strategically, it was smart because taking people out of Instagram onto an app that I don't have control out of into Telegram.
Yeah.
And then it's like I'm getting up there. I think I almost have 70 inside of there. And that's honestly where a lot of my sales come from, because they're getting exposure to my energy, but it's also like, I love it. I go in there and I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then it's spurring more real, authentic conversations back in Instagram. So it's driving traffic in there. So just sharing this with all of you, because it has been such a game changer. For one, feeling like, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs end up being like, what can I do? I feel like I don't have momentum right now. So instead, it's like, this is something that I can do that creates strategic momentum, but it's pouring back in, and it's in my zone of genius, something I love to do. So like when you're thinking about community, it's like it can happen in so many different ways, but I've loved it so much. And it's, generated 10 new clients in the last 2 months.
That's like the most awesome way to nurture people. We are wrapping up Intentional Instagram Live this week, and last week we were talking about, basically, I was telling them my favorite way to launch new offers through and on Instagram. And my favorite way is through like challenges, like challenge groups. So I will do a free group challenge. It's a community, maybe it's like a 30-day posting challenge, or maybe it's a daily selling challenge, whatever it is. Like, I've always found that is like the most effective way for me to nurture my audience and to launch new offers, because you get people in there. They're getting a one-on-one connection with you and getting to really learn, like, basically you through that Telegram. And then it leads into your offer really seamlessly. So I feel like I totally love your idea of the free community, because it's very similar to that. And it's like, you just are letting people have a deeper look at you, which builds the trust that they need to work with you one-on-one or in those higher ticket offers.
Exactly. And for me, like, I'm very pro no gatekeeping. So it's like, I have actionable things in there that if someone wants to go in there, it's like a gold mine. It's like you have strategic shifts that you can make in your business in any niche or industry, like right now, and see a difference, see that shift and impact in your own business. And so it feels good, because on my heart of just like, okay, well, even if no one buys from me, like, there's no expectation here, but then there's exclusive offer drops in there. So I'm rewarding them for being there, not only with free value, but with, hey, I won't drop this. This is exclusive just to this community. So it's like, I'll drop a weekly offer drop in there. And so it's kind of a win-win for my community and for me too. So it's been really fun. Highly recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you too. I'm also a generator. So those like communities, podcasts, like things where there is an open conversation are a lot easier for me than making and posting a reel for myself, because that feels very much like unprompted. But if I am prompted in those communities, people are asking me questions, that's where I also feel like I can really thrive. And honestly, that's like a shift that I would recommend people make going into the next year. Like, I really recommend people like dive into either like their human design or astrology or just their energy or even their Enneagram, like something like that. Because what I've found is like being able to go to something that's not a business plan, but more so to do with like who I am as a person has helped me find alignment in my business.
I have found the same thing. It's like the internal alignment and just the internal work that so many of us, avoid because it's the hard work, right? And so I remember at the beginning of my business, I was purchasing course after course after masterclass to be like, okay, what is this strategy or blueprint? And it's like I was turning over every stone and realizing like you are the internal like blueprint, like coming back to you, and you're like, you need to lead the way. But it's like, it's not going to be found in just XYZ strategy. Like any strategy can work for your business. You just need to stick with it one long enough.
I agree with you. With any strategy would work, right? Like you could take any workshop, any masterclass, whatever. Like the strategies work. That's why they're teaching them, and you can stick with them. But you're probably not going to stick with them if they're not in alignment with you, and that's why it's not going to work. I think
Yes, I love
that's the indicator is like, does it actually feel good and sustainable to you?
I totally agree in terms of like being a generator and just learning that responding is what I do best. Like I found that in my signature program, when I was building it out, I had weekly calls, and one would be a training, and then the next one would be hot seat coaching and like a give and an ask. And in those trainings, I love training, I love teaching, but I felt so exhausted after those. It was like, oh my gosh, I need a couple of days to recover. Whereas after the hot seat coaching calls, I would feel so inspired, buzzing with ideas. Like I could build a week or two of content out. And so as I was designing my next offers, it's like, okay, how can I build more of this responding into them? So that naturally led to also the free community. So it's like when we build our business around who we are, it makes it so much easier.
I love that. Okay, my next question for you, building on top of personal brands and alignment and things like that. What would you tell someone who has been nervous to create a personal brand, or maybe they're listening to this and they're like, okay, like I've started building a personal brand, but like it doesn't really feel like me and I'm nervous. Like, what would you tell them? Where should they start?
So I feel like you can just ask yourself a couple of simple questions. Like if you went to your husband or partner or best friend, what would they say like are your best traits? Like what would they say that they love talking to you about? And that's going to tell you so much about like where you're maybe not looking at truth in its face. And then, excuse me. And then in terms of maybe they've created a business and it doesn't feel aligned, it's like, where have you veered away from your values? So I always say people often skip that stage. It's like, that's the boring stuff. What are my values? Who's my dream client? So often we skip ahead because we want to, fast track success. And so it's going back to those basics of like, what do you actually stand for? Like whatever niche or industry you're in, like what do you stand for in your life and business? What can't come with you? What's something that you actually disagree about your industry, and like put that stake in the ground. But I would just say if you start sharing one thing daily that you believe in, whether it's like in a story, in a post, like your business is going to evolve into you very quickly, because when you start sharing those truths daily, it will be a culmination of like who you are.
Yeah. So what could that look like for somebody? Like is it something they value in their business, or is it something they value in their life? Like they get up every morning and they journal. Like, should they share about that? Or should it be more like, I think you need to have consistency, so you need to post every day?
I think it's a mixture of both, honestly. So I disagree with people saying like nobody gives a shit about your matcha order, excuse my French, or no one cares what you order at. I was like, actually, I do. Like, I do care about those things. And so I'm creating for a business, not for similar people. I don't want to, like, that's boring, but for people who have the same values as me. Like, I actually want to know the mentor or coach or person that I work with, what she stands for, what she orders at the coffee shop. Like, I want to know what she is doing behind the curtains, which I also think is going to be more of what's moving into 2025 in a personal brand. It's like, obviously, there's a fine line, and you get to choose what your boundaries are with what you share behind the scenes and what you don't, especially as a mom and a family. Like I don't share my kids and my business, but that's very at the forefront of what I do. And so I would say that sharing your coffee order, sharing that you journal in the morning. I share every day that I do usually a walking or running meditation. And I've had so many clients reach out. I've shared this app with them, Superhuman, that's changed my life. And so I think that just getting really clear on what you stand for, it also shows embodiment in your business. So they go hand in hand.
Yes, embodiment is the biggest thing I teach anyone that wants to grow on social media, because I'm like, you have to show that you are doing what you teach, or else no one's going to trust you. Especially because people are becoming more and more discerning with the rise in coaches, service providers, all of those things. Like people are just, they're not going to be tricked. They need to really know you. So I love that. And you know what? I think it's so fun. My favorite clients that I've ever worked with are people who I have connected with over something that's not what I do. Like
Mhm.
they either love the same music as me, or they live in the same city as me, or they love traveling. Like we've connected on something that's not social media, and that makes our bond and like a friendship grow along with that client relationship. And that's so valuable because not only does it create long-term clients, but it makes you have like an open door with them where they feel like they can talk to you and really uncover their needs so you can show up for them even better.
Yes, I so agree with that because it's like, well, one, with the embodiment piece, it's like you can't teach something that you haven't done for yourself and for your clients, which as people are becoming more discerning, it's like just because you scaled to six figures doesn't mean you can teach someone else. Goes back to what we were talking about with like,
Yeah.
just because you've done it doesn't mean that like you can show your cookie cutter way is the way, right? My interior designer client and so many of my clients that come to me, like it's usually like I drink Olippops all the time. Like I actually got a subscription when I was pregnant and those were like my nice little like mocktails. And so often that's when I get the most DMs and engagement is when I share like what I'm doing in my day-to-day life. So on the weekends, I usually don't post on Saturdays unless I feel called to. I don't like to make firm rules or be like, you cannot post Saturdays, but I'll share what I'm doing with my family behind the scenes because people, one, want to see that you are the leader that they're signing up to work with, that you're embodied in your work, that like, I'm not saying that I help you build a spacious, scalable business and that I'm literally hustling 24/7.
Yeah, like you're only working.
They want to see that you like talk the talk and walk the walk. So like as people become more discerning, they need to see more of who you are behind the scenes. And so it all works together like a grand puzzle, if you will. It's like, who are you saying you are? And are you actually being that person? And if you're not showing them behind the scenes, there's really no way of knowing.
And like, oh, this is kind of a side note, but the more you're willing to share things like that, like I'm thinking about how your business could evolve if you shared more of your personality. Like, what if you are a foodie and so part of your personal brand is that like you like to share the different restaurants and what you ordered? What if that turned into your full-time thing, like getting to go to different restaurants and like try different things? Like you're just like opening yourself up to like so much opportunity, so many ways you could pivot if you ever wanted to, like such a strong personal brand that you can withstand anything when you allow yourself to be seen in
Yes.
these other ways. And like it sounds funny because it doesn't sound like sharing what you ate is authentic, but it is if that's something you care about.
Exactly. And I think that's another way to be discerning. It's like, are you sharing this because you're checking the box to share something about your personal life? Or are you sharing this because this is so important to you that like you love this special kind of a croissant from your favorite place that you take your kids on the weekend and
Yeah.
it's part of your story? Because storytelling is like literally the crux of a strong personal brand. It's like if you're not able to tell your story in a way that's powerful with lessons as it unfolds, like you're probably not going to have a strong personal brand. And so it's like those authentic shares are so, so important to that. They're crucial.
Yep. I agree so much. Okay, before we like wrap up, do you have any last thoughts on personal brands, on what you see coming in the new year, things people should maybe try or stop doing?
So one is one of the biggest things I actually work with my clients on, and it plays into everything that they do, and it's people pleasing. It's And if we could literally have a whole podcast episode on this, it's like that's the internal work we're avoiding, but the people pleasing comes in so many ways, shape, or forms. I was actually speaking to a client about this morning, and she was selling some one-on-one intensive containers. And she was like, using her as an example, yeah, they couldn't do this time. So I flexed my schedule. And it's like, yes, we all want to be flexible creatures. But at the same time, now you've made things hard on yourself. And so how can we make sure that we're showing up in a way where we're not trying to fill other people's cups first? Because when we're discerning, when we stop people pleasing, that actually makes so much more space and gives you so much more capacity to hold more, to be happier, to actually be in alignment. And so people pleasing is one of the worst things you can do for your business and brand, because
So
it breaks
bad.
the trust with yourself, with your clients. It manifests in so many different ways, lowering your prices, offering people discounts. Like, obviously, if you make an embodied decision, that's different, but you'll
Mm-hmm.
know inside if you're people pleasing, and that can't come with us into 2025.
No, that can't come with us. And I feel like exactly what you said is so true. Like, if you're embodied, you'll know if you're people pleasing or if you're being flexible,
Yes.
because I do think that there is a balance of being respectful of your clients and being flexible to a degree, and then also holding your boundaries. And an example of this that came up in my business a couple weeks ago is like a client of mine, we had to reschedule a call, and she was like, well, I can do, I think it was like 8:30 your time AM. And I have a firm boundary that I do not take a call before 9:30 AM. And the reason is I'm literally just not like there yet. I'm not there yet. Like, I like to do my morning routine. I have like a checklist of things I do for clients before that. And I just said, my first call, the way I responded was very respectful of her. I said, my first call time is 9:30 AM. So does that work any other day of the week? And she was like, oh yeah, Thursday. Nope, like no big deal. And it's like, that's awesome, because I could have people
Mhm.
pleased and just said, yeah, sure, I'll take the call at 8:30. I would have been just not showing up fully. Or I can just kindly say, hey, what about 9:30 another day? Works for both. Like, we both win. Everyone wins, because I didn't choose to like be a people pleaser in that situation.
Yes, it's like a muscle that you have to flex over and over again. It gets easier over time. And it's actually like, it builds so much more trust with my clients of just like, hey, I will get, usually if someone responds, my hours go till 4:30. And if I get stuff in the evening, I might respond like, hey, I'll get back to you in the morning, or I might not say anything. But I've set that clear expectation that it's about trust. And it's also showing them what they can do. Like, hey, please, you don't have to.
Totally.
How do you build a spacious and scalable business if you can't uphold your boundaries? You can't, actually. You can't build a spacious business that is respectful of your time, with time freedom for me to be present with my kids and my family. Like, there's a ripple effect there of people pleasing that actually impacts far more than me. So it's
So true.
something that I've really drawn in the line in the sand of like, this absolutely cannot come with me as I scale my business and go into 2025.
And like, you're just so much more of an authority too. Like, when
Yes.
you do have boundaries that you hold, and you're not just flying like a bag in the wind doing whatever. Like, an authority doesn't do that. An authority has
Yes.
boundaries, they have structure, they have these things in place to make them have a big beautiful life that they want. So if you're not doing that, it's going to be hard for you to have the life you want, you know?
Yes, wholeheartedly. Yes. It's like, if you are not able to say no to the clients that aren't aligned for you, like I in my career have said yes to clients where I was like, well, there's maybe some red flags, but like I can help them. And so it was almost like in this savior way. And it's like, you always learn from those lessons. They're always lessons, right? But when we're more discerning and we really follow our intuition and learn to say no, it's like you create so much space and capacity for these dream clients that get to be easy to work with, where plugging into my one-on-one containers and my, group programs, it's like, it gets to feel easy, but you can only say that when you've done the work to be discerning and say no to everything else that isn't like an F yes.
100%. I love that so much. Before I let you go, I just have one more question.
Sure.
And it's, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay, I have a really good one. It just came to me. It's basically like, don't be in such a hurry. Slowing down, like, what you want is inevitable, and not in a way that's like, if you just sit there, it's inevitable. But I was in such a hurry all of my life. Like, for the next, I climbed the corporate ladder. I was always got my MBA. I was pre-med. I was like, okay, next I want to be promoted. I want to be promoted. But it's like, I wasn't actually enjoying the journey. I wasn't celebrating, not even every little milestone, but like every little thing. And so one thing that I do in my business is like we do weekly celebrations, and it's not just business, it's like life. Like, what happened in this week? What happened in this day that we can celebrate? And so I would tell my future self, like, when you celebrate the little things, like that actually is the journey. That is your life. And if you're not able to do that, like having goals, yes, it's great to check the box, but it'll just be that. Like, you won't enjoy it. And so in business and in life, like slow the F down, enjoy
Yes.
life as it's unfolding. And that goes for business, that goes for everything. And so it's like, it's funny because there's this parallel with like everyone wanting to quantum leap in their business and collapse time. But
Yeah.
it's almost this notion that like people don't want to do the work. And it's like you can only quantum leap and collapse time when you are so aligned on the work that you're doing and celebrating and enjoying this journey that actually time slows down because you're only focused on the things that matter, that really are aligned and enjoy. And when you bring like a strategic lens to that, like that's how you quantum leap and collapse time. It's not like sitting back in a decision and like,
Yeah.
or it's not forcing. It's like that happy medium of like the 20% of what matters.
Yes, I love that so much. It reminds me of a TikTok I saw this week from one of my favorite creators of all time. Her name's Eli Rallo. It's like Elirallo, if you guys ever want to look her up. And she was saying, this is your life. Every day that you wake up, the breakfast you make, that's your breakfast. That's your life. The job you do, that's your life. So like, why are you rushing? But also like, if you're not happy with what you're doing every single second of the day, like that's your own choice because it is your own life that you're living and nobody's making you live it, like that's just, it's you, it's your life. So I love that. And it just goes so much with what you said, just to not rush things. And I mean, you're building your life. Whatever you're doing right now is the life that you're living. And you can change it whenever you want, which I think is beautiful.
I love that. It's like only you have the power, and every little decision, you're building your life.
Yeah. I love it. This was such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll make sure to link all of Annie's things so you guys can look her up and work with her because obviously you can tell she's incredible. And we will see you again soon. Hopefully we'll have you back on the podcast again.
Amazing. This was so much fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.